Hello and welcome back to Soul MCA's channel. So glad that you can join me yet again. Thank you for your continued support. If today this is your first time viewing one of my videos, I ask that you just give it a chance, give it a listen. If you like it, give me a like. If you really like it, then subscribe and come and join this growing bass community. I'm going to do something a little different today. We're going to talk about advice for preparing yourself for a gig. Maybe you have finished trying out. Maybe you've been called in to do a gig. Maybe another musician who plays that instrument can't make it and is calling you and requesting that you sub in for a gig. Whatever the case is, you've got the gig now. What is it that you do? And so I'm going to give you the three P's. Yeah, three. The three P's that I use to prepare myself. No pun intended. It's a lot of P's. That's a lot of alliteration. All right, let's try that again. So we have number one, practice. Number two, preparation. Number three, playing. Okay, so we'll break it down into those three areas. Again, that's practice, preparation, and playing. So in the first stage, practice, you want to make sure that you have all of the music first and that you have all of the correct keys to the music. There is nothing worse than getting on stage and you may have learned the song and learned it correctly and you have it in the proper key, and you didn't know that the group or the band that you're playing with is doing it in a different key. Yikes. There's nothing worse than that count off. 1, 2, 3, and then you're fighting to figure out what's going on, and everyone's looking at you like, what a train wreck. Not a good feeling. Now, keep in mind, I've discovered over time of playing gigs, sometimes people will forget what the right key is. Sometimes someone will hit the wrong note to start off a key. Sometimes you got some keyboardists out here that transpose, and they may forget to remove their transpose or that they're still transposed. A lot of things can happen. And so you also just have to be comfortable and quick on your feet and ready to switch and adjust if you have to. Try not to make too many faces. The second thing under that is practice until you have it. All right, you want to keep practicing this music, assuming time is on your side. Practice this music until you have it under your hands, until it's basically automatic. You want to practice it to that point. And then once you have that, you want to do this next thing. Overplay the song in practice. I know it's not something that we do. I know it's not something you think is a good idea, but you actually do want to overplay the song because you want to see how much you can do with it. And when you go to overplay the song, you're beginning to focus more on your licks and your chops and different additives that you can add to the song. And that lets you know that you definitely have the core, the base of the song under your hands or under your feet, if you will, if it's a different instrument besides bass that you're playing. So practice it until you got it and then overplay it. And then that's also going to give you an idea of some things that you can do. So you can pick your spots live and on the gig. Then after you've learned that, my recommendation to you is to play without the tracks. You heard me correctly. Practice playing without the tracks. And the reason I say that is this, and you see it on this channel all the time. I do tutorials and I don't do them with tracks. That's for copyright reasons. In a perfect world, I would be able to do it and YouTube would leave me alone in that regard. Talking to you, YouTube, your fancy machine that picks out all of the medleys and everyone's videos. But yeah, you want to do that because there are cues that happen that you and I may not pay attention to. There are little cues in songs. It might be an ad lib that a singer says. It may be a certain lick that somebody in the band does that cue our brains to know to go to the next part. And so a lot of times I'll be playing sometimes, and because I listen so much to the music, I'll be playing, and then sometimes I'll just forget a part. Like, oh wait, oh we're going to that part, and I'll miss it because I'm waiting subconsciously to hear that cue. And so you want to be able to practice knowing the song inside out, whether those cues are there or not. To just know, okay, this is the next part, this is the trance, and to know that you know that you know the music. And the very last thing we're going to do under practice is this. Practice in the same position you will play. This is the best advice that I can give you. If you don't listen to anything else I say, if you don't take any other advice, and this is all my opinions, this is not gospel, this is not the only way to do it. But practice the way or in the position that you're going to play. And what I mean by that is this: if it's a gig where you're going to be sitting down, practice sitting down. But if it's a gig where you're going to be standing up, trust me, practice standing up. And I say that for a number of reasons. One, even if we keep our strap at the same height, that's how you should set your strap. I'm talking to bass players and guitarists now. Even if you sit or stand in that way, it's supposed to be at the same place, but it tends to drop a little bit more or lift a little bit more depending on if you're sitting or standing. The other thing is, if you're not used to gigging for long times, I've had opportunities where I've had 2, 3, 4 hour gigs. Some of those gigs have breaks between them. I've had 1 or 2 where it's been like 2 hours straight of playing, or one where it was just 3 hours straight of playing. I don't care how light your bass is, eventually that thing starts to get heavy, and you want to prepare your muscles for that. Your back, you'll start compensating, you'll start fidgeting around. You want to know what your physical constraints are going to be, because you don't want anything else to get in the way of your playing when that time comes. So let's move on and talk about preparation. In the preparation stage, you want to get everything out at least 24 hours in advance and make sure everything works. Check everything. Make sure you have the parts to things. If you're using stands, make sure you have all your parts to your stands. Check your strings. Make sure they're good. Check batteries. Make sure that they're operable. You want to check to make sure that you have everything. Set lists. Music, if you're reading sheet music. Whatever the case is, you want to make sure that you set everything out 24 hours and give yourself time to where the music stores are still open in case you got to run out and get something. I recommend that you make a checklist. Make a checklist when you have all your stuff out there and you know everything you have, because your brain is calmer before the storm of a gig. You might wake up late or something else might go awry the next day. Right now, that 24 hours in advance, or at least 24 hours in it, you're calmer, you're in a safe space. Just make a checklist. You have clear thought at that point, and you want to be able to operate based on that clear checklist. Bring extras. Bring extra batteries, XLR cables, 1/4-inch cables, headphones. If you can bring an extra kitchen sink, bring that. Just bring extras of everything, because believe me, trust me, something is going to break on you, something is going to malfunction, or the guy in the band or the girl in the band that you always rely on, oh, such and such will bring this, or one day they're going to forget it. One day it's going to break. One day they may be running late. Something always goes wrong on gigs. It happens. Maybe not the first one, maybe not the second one, but eventually you're going to run into a bad day, and you just want to cover yourself perfectly and be prepared from the get-go. Double check once you have everything loaded up in your vehicle, your car, your bus, your trailer, whatever you're taking. Double check. And this might be like, well, if I have my checklist and I checked it all as I was going out the door, why do I got to check again? You might have forgot something at the door. In my case, you may have had everything by the door, and there have been times where I've forgotten things as important as my bass. Yeah, I forgot my bass. And I was like, got to the gig like, ooh, got everything else, but not the main instrument. And you might say, well, that's silly. How could you forget your bass? Stuff happens. I was at a gig where a drummer forgot his hi-hats, and he had to run out and go and buy hi-hats. And then he had to get creative because there was no guitar center or no music store anywhere close to us. So he had to put the 2 cymbals together and like really crank them down. It was very interesting, and also use a ride, and it was a very interesting gig. But you want to know that you have everything, because you may think, oh yeah, I had it, I saw it, whatever the case is. And like I said, when you're rushing sometimes, when you're trying to meet a deadline, you can forget things. You're not thinking clearly. What I like to do is review the music on my way to the gig as well. Re-listen to the music, make sure I got all my parts, make sure I know what everyone should be doing, where we're going, all of that good stuff. You don't have to. Some people prefer to not think about the music on their way to the gig, but from the time I get the music all the way up to the gig, I'm listening to that music every single day, over and over again, to the point where when the gig is over and I get in the car, the last thing I want to hear is that gig music. Then you want to get to the gig early. This, I cannot stress how important this is. In case you forgot something, in case somebody's running late, in case the sound test isn't when you were supposed to be, in case the band that was before you drops out and now they got to put you guys in their time slot. Or there's so many reasons why getting there early helps. One time I was on a gig, and we always went in t-shirts and stuff, and we had a special protocol of how to dress to prepare to set up, and then afterwards we're to switch into whether it was a black shirt and blue jeans, or sometimes we dress it up a little bit more, whatever the case is. And I forgot my pants, my dress pants. I had another musician in the band one time forget shoes. You got to find a store. Everybody else is dressed properly. You got to get out there. And if you were late to the gig, you need to set up, you need a sound check. Listen, you got to be looking like everybody else. If that's what the artist wants, or if that's what the MD wants, you might be out of a job. You might lose it that next time. So getting there gives you ample time to go through things. And if things go bad, if things fry, if things don't go right, you'll have the time to figure out another way around it. And so that brings us to our last P, which is the easiest one, playing. All right, and the first thing you want to do is just relax. If it's your first gig, it could be a very tense moment. And even if it's your second or third, sometimes it can still be tense. And then there may be certain people in the audience that might make you nervous. There may have been another band before you that smashed. There may be another band that you know is going to play after you that smashed. Or I was on a gig one time, and this bass player was phenomenal. I mean, the guy was slapping and singing at the same time, just crushing. And they did the worst thing that they possibly could have done to us. They kept alternating between our band and their band. So I got on the first time, played, felt good, felt great about myself, got off stage, watched this guy, and, drooled a little bit at how great he was. And then I had to get back on afterwards. And it was like I had forgotten how to play the instrument. And I knew he was out there looking, and I was just like, is this okay? I started to get into my own head. And then with each mistake, I was like, I started to focus on that a little bit more. I would have just relaxed, I would have been okay. And I got through the gig all right and fine. But I'm telling you, it hurt my heart every time he got back up there and did a little bit more than he did the last time. But it was a learning lesson for me, and I love to learn out of situations. The next thing you want to do is enjoy the moment. You've worked so hard to get to this platform, whatever it is. If it's at the church, you've worked hard, you've practiced to get there. If it's on a non-church gig, whatever the case is, enjoy the moment. Play the music, which brings me to my next point. Play the music. Play what the gig requires of you. If it's to be lock in, lock down, do that. If it's to, add in a lot of things and put in chords and, fill in empty spaces, whatever it calls for, do it. If that's what the artist wants, if that's what the music director wants. If it's a church, be sensitive to the spirit. Don't get in the way of the movement of God. Just do what you need to do appropriately in order to continue to be able to play gigs. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. Once you've done one or two, it becomes a little bit of a rush, and you want to go out and do them more and more often. So those are my 3 Ps for preparing for a gig. We are practicing, preparing, and then we're playing. Hopefully this helps somebody else out. If you got any questions, anything I can help you with as to preparing for a gig or what to do, hit me up in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer your question. I'm Soul MCA. Take it easy. God bless.
Hey. What's up, y'all? Please give me a like and subscribe, y'all. Subscribe if you like, and then hit the bell and say yes all, so when a video drops, you'll get the call.
Yes, sir.